God is in the business of owning the full process. To think that the people that built the wall of Jericho, it was one of the greatest, most fortified walls of all time. Scholars say that the walls of Jericho were so thick, they were so broad that a chariot could ride on top of the walls of Jericho, which means that's how wide the walls of Jericho were. It makes utter no logical sense for any kind of tool to have been able to break the walls of Jericho. But God says, don't worry. When they were fashioning these walls, I don't want you to get intimidated by their width. I don't want you to get intimidated by how thick they look. But when they were building these walls, I made sure that while the weapon was being forged, while the flames were being fanned, I made sure that there were certain manner of cracks in the walls. Nobody can see them. But these cracks can only be destroyed by the decibels of worship. Oh, I just said something profound there. These cracks can only be destroyed by the decibels of worship. God bless you, Amu. These cracks, nobody can see them. The naked eye in the cracks in your enemy's strategy, nobody can see them, but God can see them, and He knows the weaponry that you need for the walls of Jericho to break. God says, I want you to keep walking around the walls of Jericho. 7 days. There's something in the walls that can only be moved and shaken by the decibels and the sound of someone's voice. I feel a weight of God's glory over this broadcast. God is shifting some circumstances in people's lives. I feel a weight, a strong weight of the kabot, the tangible presence of God on this broadcast. God is shifting someone's mindset and mentality. You thought you were done for. You thought because you saw the weapon, God saw the weapon the moment you saw it. God says, I was in the process when it was being fashioned. He says, move around the walls of Jericho 7 times, because this wall is crafted and forged when I was there. This wall was crafted and forged when I was watching. I know its weaknesses. I know where it malfunctions. I know how it malfunctions. I know with the naked eye you cannot see, because you're trying to tell me a wall as thick as this one, where a chariot can run through. This is how big the wall is. God says, don't you worry. I was in the process when it was built. I know there are cracks that you can't see there. And the only way they can start, I can leverage on those cracks is if you begin to lift up your voice and begin to worship. I want some of you to begin to trust God when He begins to give you weapons of warfare. God bless you, cool fellow. Let me open the books. Let me open the books, because somebody taught you how to claim verse 17. Verse 17 says, no weapon forged against you will prevail. And every tongue refuting itself and accusing you will fall to the ground. But nobody ever taught you how to go to verse 16, because verse 16 gives you context. God says the reason why you don't have to fear the weapon is because I was in the process. I was in the process. So now you can look at a weapon and you can watch it and you can laugh. May God, in every place where you have been lamenting, may God give you laughter. In every place where you have been crying, may God give you shouts of victory and joy. As you stand toe to toe with any weapon fashioned against you, may you look it dead in the eye and say, I know a God who vindicates me. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Their vindication comes from the Lord. In the name of Jesus. Let that settle into your soul. Let that word settle into your soul. Let it begin to chase away every fear that the enemy has sowed into your spirit. Let today's word begin to chase away every intimidation that the enemy has sowed into your spirit. Let it begin to chase away any form of intimidation that have been used against you. Why? Because God this morning gives us a guarantee that there is malfunction on that weapon. There is malfunction on that weapon. Prayer governors, we have one prayer point this morning. You know your situation better than me. I want you to lift up your voice and say, Father, I thank you that you own the full process. I'm seeing a single mother on this broadcast. You're saying, woman of God, all these things that happened to me, can God take them and make sense out of them? I want you to know that you serve a God who created the blacksmith, who fanned the coals into flames and forged a weapon fit for its work. He thought the weapon was fit for its work. And it was meant to destroy you. It was meant to cause havoc over you. It was meant to deter you. Some of you, in the place where you are, it was meant to break your spirit so much that your destiny, the calling of God over your life would never find expression and manifestation. Some of you, the broken heart, when you came out of that courtship, when you came out of that broken engagement, when you came out of that broken relationship, it was meant to frustrate you so much, to make you so bitter, that the expressions of your ministry would never be able to fully come into pass. But look at you now, baby. Look at you now. Look at you now. Look at the things that God is doing through you. Look at the things that God is doing through the works of your hands. Do you know that some of you, when your baby daddies left you, they said you would be nothing without me. They said you would be nothing without me. They said you would be absolutely nothing without me. The weapon was meant to financially paralyze you. Some of you, when people left you in that marriage, when that wife left you, she cleaned you out. The woman cleaned you out at your divorce. She said you will become nothing after this. The weapon was meant to completely break you. But God said, when the weapon was being fashioned, I made sure that there was malfunction. I made sure that there was malfunction in the weapon. I made sure that the weapon was fashioned, yes, but I made sure there was malfunction in the weapon. So now when I tell you that no weapon fashioned against you can prevail, I want you to believe me. I want you to trust me, because I own the process. A good businessman will make sure that as they're expanding, they own the process. They own full process, so that they have full control over the outcome. I'm sent an assignment today to tell somebody God owns the full process of your life.